All right. I said that we are in the beginning of chapter 10, and in this chapter, Gulliver realizes how happy he is and how comfortable he is in this land of Honiums. And like Robinson Crusoe, he learns how to live there because the Honiums make him a room in the style of Honiums. So it looks like a horse barn. So he furnishes, he repairs, he plasters the wood and the floor. And with the help of one of the Honiums, he makes himself, by using his knife, he makes himself a chair. So like Robinson Crusoe, he learns how to survive here, and he gets honey out of the trees. Now, I often got honey out of hollow trees, which I mingled with water and ate with my bread. No man could more verify the truth of these two maxims, that nature is very easily satisfied and that necessity is the mother of invention. You see, we are back to the necessity again, the mother of inventions. So we see that same thing happens in Robinson Crusoe and also in Gulliver's Travels. In Robinson Crusoe, we saw the same idea. Necessity is the father of all inventions. Now, he also says that necessity is the mother of inventions. When you need something, you invent, you create for yourself. I enjoyed perfect health of body. He begins to feel gradually better and better. I enjoy perfect health of body and tranquility of mind. I did not feel the treachery or inconstancy of a friend, nor the injuries of a secret or open enemy. I had no occasion of bribing. He doesn't have to bribe anyone. He doesn't have to give bribes to anyone. He doesn't have to pay for anything. Flattering. He doesn't have to flatter over anyone. Or pimping to procure the favor of any great man or of his minion. I wanted to fence against fraud or oppression, but there's no fraud. There's no oppression, there's no corruption in this land. Here was neither physician to destroy my body, so there are no doctors, so no one can destroy his body. No lawyer to ruin my fortune. He was talking about the lawyers, that we are all slaves. But now he says that there's no lawyer to ruin my fortune. No informer to watch my words or actions, or forge accusations against me for hire. Okay, and right. I wanted no fence against fraud or oppression. Here was neither physician to destroy my body, nor lawyer to ruin my fortune. No informer to watch my words and actions, or forge accusations against me for hire. Here were no gibers, censorers, backbiters, pickpockets, highwaymen, housebreakers, attorneys, beaus, buffoons, gamesters, politicians, wits, splenetics, tedious talkers, controvertists, ravishers, murderers, robbers, virtuosos. So he's away from all the troubles of the real world. He's away from all those troubles. He's away from all the fraud, corruption, and treachery. Robbers, murderers. He's away all of them. No leaders, which is the most important thing. There are no leaders, no politicians in Honium's land. No leaders or followers of party and faction, no encouragers to vice by seducement or examples, no dungeon, because there are no prisons. They don't need prisons since there's no crime. No dungeon access gibbets, whipping posts, or pillories. No cheating shopkeepers or mechanics. No pride, vanity, or affectation. No fopes, bullies, drunkards, strolling whores, or poxes. No ranting, lewd, expensive wives. No stupid, proud pedants. No importunate, overbearing, quarrelsome, noisy, roaring, empty, conceited, swearing companions. No scoundrels, raised from the dust for the sake of their vices, or nobility thrown into it on account of their virtues. No lords, fiddlers, judges, or dancing masters. So, he's away from all of these, and he's comfortable now. He doesn't have to cheat anyone, and he's never cheated here. He doesn't have to pay for anything, and no one needs to pay him. And he doesn't need to be afraid of murderers, robbers, because there are no thieves or murderers in this land. I had the favor of being admitted to several Honiums who came to visit or dine with my master, where his honor graciously suffered me to wait in the room and listen to their discourse. Both he and his company would often descend to ask me questions and receive my answers. I had only sometimes the honor of attending my master in his visits to others. I never presumed to speak except in answer to a question. Then I did it with inward regret, because it was a loss of so much time for improving myself. But I infinitely delighted with the station of an humble auditor in such conversations, where nothing passed but what was useful, expressed in the fewest and most significant words, where the greatest decency was observed, without the least degree of ceremony, where no person spoke without being pleased himself and pleasing his companions, where there was no interruption, tediousness, heat, or difference of sentiments. No different opinions, no quarrels between people, no fights, of course, no wars. So he's very, very happy on this land. On the next page, when I thought of my family, my friends, my countrymen, or human race in general, I considered them as they really were, Yahoos in shape and disposition, perhaps a little more civilized. So when he thinks of his own people, even his own family, friends, his own nation, he thinks that they are completely Yahoos, a little bit more civilized. But they are Yahoos, definitely. Qualified with the gift of speech. Yahoos cannot speak, but humans can speak. That's the only difference. But making no other use of reason than to improve and multiply those vices whereof their brethren in this country had only the share that nature allotted them. When I happened to behold the reflection of my own form in a lake or fountain, I turned away my face. He doesn't even want to see his own face, the reflection of his own face on the water. So when he sees his own face, he turns his head, doesn't want to look at it himself, because he thinks that he's very similar to Yahoos. I turned my face in horror and detestation of myself, and could better endure the sight of a common Yahoo than of my own person. By conversing with the Honiums, looking upon them with delight, I felt to imitate their gait and gesture, which is now grown into a habit. And my friends often tell me in a blunt way that I trot like a horse. Even his walking style has changed. He walks like a horse, okay? Trotting, which, however, I take for a great compliment. He thinks that this is a compliment. He doesn't look like a human being, but he looks like a horse, and it's a compliment. Never shall I disown that in speaking I am apt to befall the voice and manner of the Hunians, and hear myself ridiculed on that account without the least mortification. So, this is a great change in Gulliver's life. He doesn't even want to return to his own country. Now, let's have a look at that. I skipped the next paragraph. My master added that he was daily pressed by the Honiums of the neighborhood to have the assembly's exhortation executed, because now the Honiums begin to discuss Gulliver's existence there, Gulliver's presence there, which he could not put off much longer. He doubted it would be impossible for me to swim to another country. Therefore wished I could contrive some sort of vehicle resembling those I had described to him, that might carry me on the sea, in which work I should have the assistance of his own servants as well as those of his neighbors. He concluded that, for his own part, he could have been content to keep me in his service as long as I lived, because he found I had cured myself of some bad habits and dispositions by endeavoring, as far as my inferior nature was capable, to imitate Honiums. All he wants to do is to imitate Honiums and to be like the Honiums, because they are so civilized, so gentle, so aesthetical. I should here observe to the reader that a degree of the General Assembly in this country is expressed by the word hinlein, which signifies an exhortation as near as I can render it. For they have no conception of how a rational creature can be compelled, but only advised and exhorted, because no person can disobey the reason without giving up his claim to be a rational creature. Now, I was struck with the utmost grief and despair at my master's discourse, and being unable to support the agonies I was under, I fell into a swoon at his feet. So, because the General Assembly decides that he should be exhorted, now Gulliver is very sorry, so he begins begging the master. But the next paragraph, my master in a few words made me a very gracious reply, allowed me the space of 2 months to finish my boat, ordered the Sorelnac, my fellow servant, to follow my instructions, because I told my master that his help would be sufficient, and I knew he had a tenderness for me. Now, the master tells him to finish making his boat in 2 months and leave the country. Very sadly, he has to leave, of course. On the final page of the chapter, when all was ready, and the day came for my departure, I took leave of my master and lady and the whole family, my eyes flowing with tears, and my heart quite sunk with grief. But His Honor, out of curiosity, and perhaps partly out of kindness, was determined to see me in my canoe, and got several of his neighboring friends to accompany him. I was forced to wait above an hour for the tide, and then observing the wind and very fortunately bearing towards the island to which I intended to steer my course, I took a second leave of my master, but as I was going to prostrate myself to kiss his hoof, he did me the honor to raise it gently to my mouth. So he wants to kiss his hoof, his foot, but the Honium master, raises his own foot. He doesn't want to let him bow down to the floor. I'm not ignorant how much I have been censored for mentioning this last particular. For my detractors are pleased to think it improbable that so illustrious a person should descend to give so great a mark of distinction to a creature so inferior as I. Neither have I forgot how apt some travellers are to boast of extraordinary favours they have received. But if these censorers were better acquainted with the noble and courteous disposition of the Honiums, they would soon change their opinion. I paid my respects to the rest of the Honiums in his honour's company, then getting into my canoe, I pushed off from shore. Now his journey begins to go back to England. And he is very sad. He can see the differences between the humanity and the Honiums. He can see the differences between his own country and the Honiums' land. This I want to call a certain realization. Now he realizes that Honiums are far better and far more civilized than human beings. Can we say that last part is utopia? Yes, of course, Zeynep. We can say that the last part is utopia because Honiums' land symbolize utopia. It's a utopic place, utopically clean. Everything is perfect. There's no crime, there's no prison, there's no murder, there's no theft in this country, no stealing. And we can call it a utopia. Everything is perfect there. Now he's going back to a land where everything is not perfect, everything is imperfect. I began this desperate voyage on February 15, 1714 at 9 o'clock in the morning. The wind was very favorable, however. I made use at first only of my paddles, but considering I should soon be weary that the wind might chop about, I ventured to set up my little sail, and thus, with the help of tide, I went at the rate of a league and a half an hour, as near as I could guess. My master and his friends continued on the shore till I was almost out of sight, and often heard the sorrel nag, who always liked me, crying out, "Hinuya Ilya Nia Maya Yahoo." Take care of yourself, gentle Yahoo. So they call him gentle Yahoo. Now, I'm closing this session and I'm going to open the next session in 5 minutes. See you in 5 minutes.